Welcome back to our HaloPSA integration runbook series. This is now part 3 or video 3, and today I am going to be demonstrating and showing you how you can interact with HaloPSA's API using the developer tools function within the browser. And the reason and purpose for this is that Halo works in a way where the front end communicates with their API constantly whenever you're interacting with the GUI. And so an advantage we've got in terms of building automations is we can record the steps that we're doing and watch what's happening with the API calls inside Halo, and then use them in methods in our runbook to trigger those kind of requests on demand. This isn't unique to Halo. There are other web-based SaaS applications that follow the same kind of technique, whereby if you use the developer tools, you can very easily see what's happening in terms of API calls. It makes it really easy for replicating and automating. SIP, Cyberdrain, Improved Partner Portal also works the same way. I've also done quite a lot with Zementum from a quoting perspective, that we can also do the same thing. It's not universal. You can't always see everything that the application is doing with the APIs, but in particular with Halo, we definitely can. And that's kind of what I want to demonstrate during today's video, so you can start to automate more of your tasks inside of Halo. Before we do begin, the setup that I've done so far in our demo environment, our trial environment, has been set up over the last couple of videos. So if you haven't already watched the previous videos, then I recommend you go and do so. It will add additional context to what we're about to talk about. Let's jump in, and I will start by sharing my screen. And I'm just going to show you again how to get to the integration Runbooks module, because that's where we're going to start building out this runbook. So within configuration, if you search for custom integrations, you'll see the option, or you can find it down the menu on the left under integrations. And we've talked over the previous videos about custom integrations and about methods and how these work. We are going to jump into custom integrations for now. We've already set up our Halo API integration, and I'm just going to jump into the methods. We're not going to go into the runbooks just yet, because I'm going to show you how to build the method out. Here's one I've done earlier, so I'm just going to delete this off, and we're going to kind of recreate this as we go. Now, what we want to do is we want to kind of demonstrate that interacting with the Halo interface, we can actually watch what's happening in the back end. I'll give you a really quick, and if this is your first runbook to get you started, this one's really quick, a one-step runbook, really easy to do, but it's something that we've actually used inside of our business, because one of the things that I've noticed you can't do within ticket rules inside of Halo is you have no control over this source field here. So we can go in and we can manually change the source field to whatever we want inside the Halo interface. But if we wanted to trigger that on a rule, and we wanted to automate the changing of the source depending on the type of ticket, where it came from, maybe the description of the ticket gives us an indication that it is some automated email and not just an email, but we might want to designate that it's an automated ticket instead. Unfortunately, inside of Halo, if we go to configuration, tickets, and into rules, already there. If we go into rules, we can see that from an outcome perspective, there's nothing to do with source on this list. And if you go to other outcomes, source isn't available for us to modify within here as well. So we're kind of stuck, and we can't automate using traditional methods the update of source on a ticket. This is something we actively wanted to do inside Reformed IT. So what we did instead is we just created a very simple custom integration runbook to do this for us. So if we take a look at an existing ticket and we look at this source, we can see the source is currently manual. Now, anything that we do within this interface, if we click any action buttons or change any of these options or properties, it's going to trigger an API call in the in the back end. What we want to do is we want to see what's happening. Easiest way to do that within your browser is to right click and go to inspect. That should be available with Chromium browsers. I'm using Edge in this case, but it will equally work in Chrome. So once we've got our developer tools open, what we're interested in for this is the network tab. So in Edge, I think it's the same in Chrome. It looks like this Wi-Fi signal. You'll see it from, if you hover over it, it says network. Depends obviously in terms of how big your screen is as to whether you can physically see the word. So if you go into the network tab within the developer tools, you'll see there's a kind of a recording button here that's red. This is currently recording anything that's happening with this page. So any interactions with the application are being recorded here, and we can see this this visualized. So you can also see there's a clear button next to the record button. So hitting stop recording stops any further changes. You can see that chat is interacting frequently, so it does cloud up this screen. And you can equally obviously switch on recording, and you can clear anything from the current list as well. It generally says that we need to reload the page. Oh, don't need to reload the page. So again, it's recording, it's capturing anything that's happening within the interface. Now, as per my example, my demonstration, I want to see what happens when we change the source manually in this ticket. I'm just going to clear that again in a second. And if we scroll down here and go to source, and I'm going to change this to auto, because that's what we're going to want the Runbook to do. I'm going to change that to auto, click away, that's now saved. There's no save button or anything with this, so that's happened and that's completed. I'm just going to move me out of the way so you can get a full screen view. So now we've got this this list of actions. Because things keep popping up, we can stop the recording at that point. We know that we've captured the change with the source. And what we're looking for when we're making a change, we should see a 201 response to that change. 201 is effectively a response code that says created. And I've just brought up the HTTP status codes page here. You can just kind of Google for HTTP status codes. This will give you an indication as to what some of these codes mean. This will become important learning, because you'll see this a lot as you start to trigger API calls, and it's useful to know that 200 is an OK status, 201 is created, 202 is accepted. Some common ones. You'll also want to know what some of the error codes are. 404 obviously being not found. This is useful kind of context and learning to do in terms of understanding how the APIs are going to interact with the application. If we go back though, we can see that we've got a 201, which is the created status on the tickets endpoint. Now I kind of know from looking at that that's what we're going to want to drill into. So if we click on the tickets API call here, then we can now see on the tabs here, we've got a payload option, and it's showing our payload or request payload underneath. There is an important step here, the tab, which is headers. So under the headers tab, we can see the request URL. So here we've got the base URL for our API, which you will also see when we go into custom integrations into the methods and we create a new method. We can see that we've got the option to do a get, post, put, patch, or delete. We've got our base URL, our resource URL listed, and then this is where we enter the endpoint for this particular query. And if we go back, we can see that it's /API/tickets. So that is the endpoint that when we changed the source a moment ago, that's the endpoint that it triggered. So we can effectively go in here and tell Halo that that's also what we want to trigger using our API method. And then the next piece of information that we're going to want to know is the payload. So this is particularly because we're doing a post. With the post, we are going to want to capture the payload that is being sent with it. Here we can see the request payload, and it kind of shows you what it's done. You can see the ID 2188, which represents the ticket ID, and we can also see source number 2, which I would guarantee in the case of what we've done changes it to auto in our case. So we've got this information. There are some bits of information that are kind of irrelevant in here. The main bits that we want to know is the ID and the source, and that's what we're changing. Now with this, it's not very easy to kind of copy and paste this out from this view. So what I recommend is clicking view source, and this will give a raw format for the JSON format. We can highlight all of this and we can copy it. But the formatting, again, isn't very easy to read. It's not very structured. So as per the previous video, I often recommend jumping into the JSON viewer and dropping the JSON payload in here. And there's a nice handy format button at the top. This will structure it in a nice, easy way that we can then copy and paste into our body for our query. Now, at the moment, we don't have the ability to do that because we're still using a get. As we saw in the header here, this is a post. So we need to change this to a post. We're going to be changing some data. We're going to select JSON because it's a JSON payload. And then we're just simply going to paste the information that we got from the developer tools screen. As I mentioned, there's a lot of information here that we don't necessarily need. We don't need really any of that. And we've got the ticket ID. We don't need files being null either. That's irrelevant. So we've got ID and source. Now, obviously, at the moment, the ID is fixed. That's based on the ticket that we've just changed. We don't want that. We want to select a ticket variable. So when Halo triggers a runbook, we can pull information in from the ticket, such as any of this data that we can see here. Now, what we want to do is, bearing in mind, I'm using a Mac, so annoyingly, in here, the cursor doesn't line up. And at the moment, I think there's a bug. Morgan, if you are watching this, can you please fix this? I have no ability to click the variables to make them appear anymore, so I have to manually type in the variable that appears on the side. If this is working for you or not working for you, can you please comment, and then I'll forward it to Morgan if it's frustrating anyone else besides me. So we're going to put in the ticket ID from the variables, and we're just going to finish this line off. Has to be in quotation marks, and we need to finish the line off with a comma. So that is fundamentally that done. So this should now automatically change the source for us in a ticket based on this variable ticket ID. We're going to call this change source to auto, and this will be the easiest runbook that you ever complete. We are going to save that, and we've now got this method available to us. We can do a test of this to see how it's going to act when it's triggered. For that, what we're going to do, we can close this off now. We've kind of done what we need. And at the moment, that does say source auto. Let's pick a different ticket just to show you that it's just not running against the same thing. So let's get another demo ticket, 2515 on here. Currently, source is, you can see at the bottom, the source is web currently. So 2515, if we go over to our method and we run a test on this and put in 2515 as our ticket ID for the variable. So we're just manually filling this variable in right now. If we hit save on that, we get a 201, which, as we saw from our status codes, is good. That's a positive sign. 2 codes are generally success codes, and 201 means it's created. So that looks good. That looks positive. So if we go back over to our ticket, it used to be web. The source has now changed automatically to auto. So that's kind of what we're looking to do. So let's build our one-step runbook using this method that we've just created, using the dev tools, the inspect element, to work out what was happening in Halo in the back end, so we could use that to create this. So that's all done. Let's close that off. We're going to go to the integrations. Gone back too far actually. Custom integrations. So integrations, custom integrations. We're now going to drill into integration runbooks, and we're going to start by creating a new runbook, and we'll call this something similar. Change ticket source to auto. Okay, this is going to be a very simple runbook. Can only be started from within Halo. The options here are we can start the runbook from within Halo, either through an action event or workflow, or it can be started using a public endpoint, which means you can trigger runbooks from webhooks from other applications or other sources. We don't need that for what we're doing. Instead, what we are going to do for this one is, as I mentioned earlier, I kind of wanted to do this as a rule, but we don't have the ability to change source using a rule. So instead, we're just going to trigger this runbook using an event. So we've got the ability to choose an event. This acts similar to a rule, and we're going to just say if a new ticket is logged, and then we'll narrow this down because let's say, for example, we only wanted to do this with tickets whereby it came from where the email header or the summary said something like monitored service. So this might be coming from an email as an inbound email into your system, but because of what it is, you wanted to class the source as auto for your reporting rather than an email, which might suggest that an end user's emailed in. So we're going to just put that criteria in so that it only matches against tickets where the value contains monitored service. I'm going to hit save on that. So that's what's going to trigger it. We now need to actually create the runbook itself. So we're going to go to the flowchart tab. It opens this first step automatically for you. So we are going to create the first step, which is just going to be, again, change source to auto, and our action is going to be the integration method that we created earlier, and that was under HaloPSA, change source to auto. So we've already built the method. You can create methods instead of building it before like we did. As you're going through and creating runbooks, you might think of different API calls you need to do, different methods you need to create. You can just create them on the fly from here, and it'll open the method screen for you. And then you can save it and bring it back here. But we'd already built it, so I'm just going to select the one that we've built. Then we're going to hit save on that. And we've now got our two steps that come from either a successful or an unsuccessful response. Now, just a quick couple of tips on integration runbooks that you may or may not be aware of. If you highlight a step on the runbook screen, you can hit the delete or backspace key and it just removes the step. Okay. Another thing to note is that if you add a step, and we're just going to now put our failure step, failed to change source, and this is going to be an end step, and the result is going to be failed retry from start. We hit save on that. So we've now got this new step, and this is loose. It's not connected to anything. A lot of people have been managing this by going in and editing the runbook step, and then going and changing where it goes here. Just a quick tip, these are drag and drop capable. So you can click on the unsuccessful response and drag your flow to the next step. And if you see it connect and you move that around and it moves with it, then you've connected that unsuccessful response step to the next step. It's useful to know. I'm not going to delete this one, but I'm going to go in and call this completed. And this is an end step, and it was successful. So that is that. That's our one-step runbook. Now it's time to test it and make sure that all of this works. So if we hit save and actually create this runbook, so that's ready to go now. It should have our ticket trigger, and our ticket trigger, I think, was monitored service for the name. So let's go in and create a new ticket. So we need to put monitored service in as part of the description. It might be alert from device or whatever. So that's that. And then Category doesn't really matter. This is just out of the box Halo, so I haven't really gone and configured anything. And you see our source at the moment is manual, but I'm going to change that as if it came in by email. The end result that we're looking for is that when this ticket is created, the runbook should run and this should get changed to auto regardless. So if we hit submit on this ticket, okay, it's opened the ticket, it's created the ticket. If we look at source, it currently does say email. That's what we just selected a moment ago. If I refresh this ticket, we can now see it's automatically switched to source auto. If we head over to our runbook, what we can see now is within our runbook, we should have this log. The log shows us that a ticket 2817, which is the one that we've just triggered, 2817 was triggered this runbook and everything ran and it completed successfully. If we click into that, you'll see even more detail. So under request data, you'll see any methods or APIs or any other actions that have requested and received data. So under here, we can see the request that was made. So the payload was the ID and the ticket number 2817, and the source 2, which is the number for auto, as we found by using the developer tools earlier. And then you can see a 201 response with all of the information from the ticket has been responded to. And that's that. Obviously, the log screen, when you start to build quite comprehensive runbooks with various different steps, you're probably going to want to use the log to see where where everything went to, particularly when you start to use arrays and iterate through arrays. This is going to be really useful for you. But that is basically how to build a very basic runbook using your inspect element to determine what you want your method to do, basically. Hopefully that's been useful. We will be using that tool in terms of inspect and developer tools. We will be using that in future videos because that will come up a lot as we start to automate some tasks out. But that should hopefully give you enough of an idea as to how to get started, creating a runbook, looking at how Halo interacts, how the application interacts with the APIs, so that you can then copy that information out, bring it into runbooks and start to use it in steps. If you've got any questions or comments, then please do leave them below. And now you just need to move on to the next video, where we'll be adding more meat onto the bones in terms of building these runbook functionalities out. Please, I'm building a series of videos for this. So if you found this useful, please subscribe. And obviously, it would be good if you can get notified as I release new videos in the future. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next video.